One award show. We're going to go through all of the schools in the Concho Valley and tell you who was the best players and who had the best seasons. Before we do, I want to bring in my crew. We're going to start with, as always, James Bellini. James, football season's over, but we still got a little more fun to do. Are you excited?
I am excited. We put a lot of work into this, so let's let these parents know who made the lists, man. I'm ready for it.
Let's do it. But one more person we got to bring in, and that is our sports guy, Ryan Chapman. Ryan, what's up?
How's it going, guys?
Ryan, there's been a lot of controversy in this thing. You guys have been going back and forth. But how was it trying to fend for whoever you wanted and your guy?
Oh, James and I have gotten to the point where we were at each other's throats sometimes on this because I'm like, no, this guy has to be here because he plays against this quality of opponent. So obviously I was the big proponent for all the 4A and up guys. And James was like, no, but we can't forget about the small guys who put up the same numbers,
James,
so
what you got, James?
No, we can't forget about, when we did the all Concho Valley teams. There's Central's the big school, Lakeview's the next biggest, then Wall is probably the next big, football school everybody knows about in San Angelo in the Concho Valley. But they're all 3As, 2As, and 1As after that. So
yeah.
We put them all on the same list, all on the same board, and we went through them. We filtered them out.
We did, and we got a lot of people on the list, but we're going to talk about the most important ones first, and that's our MVP, our offensive MVP, our defensive MVP, and, of course, the Coach of the Year. So I'm going to let Ryan bring this one in. We're going to go with MVP first. Chadwick, tell the people who is the COVER1 MVP of the year.
This year's MVP for the entire Concho Valley, coming from us at COVER1, is Central quarterback Tyler Hill. Congratulations, Tyler. You had an incredible season. I know you've gotten plenty of other honors as well, but your performance this year really stuck out to all of us, so congratulations, man.
That's right. The MVP of the COVER1 is Tyler Hill. James, talk about his season. We got to watch him all year long. We covered every single Central game, and we saw him ball out. Tell me, why do you think he deserved this MVP?
No, man, exactly that. He balled out this year. He was the gear that made Central go. Without him, I don't, how many games would they have won? You saw it. When he needed to run, he ran, and he ran for a lot of yards this season. And he put up, more yards through the air. He was able to. He had great receivers. He had a great team. He had an offense that was made for him. Coach Crane did a good job of, building his team around, a quarterback who could throw it and run the ball. So,
yep, he was a true dual threat quarterback this year, and it really showed. He had 22 touchdowns through the air, and then he put up another 20 touchdowns on the ground. So I'm not saying he was their complete offense because they have plenty of talented players on that offense, but he is what made that offensive gear turn. And when Central was struggling defensively sometimes, Tyler Hill most of the time kept them in the game.
Yeah, for sure. He was the one that everybody kind of had a game plan against. It's kind of, you got to contain him in the pocket because once he's out of there, that man is gone. But then at the same time, he can light you up. He was really good at making decisions. This was his senior year. We saw him when he was a sophomore play receiver. And then, he kind of moved on after Malachi Brown left, and he took over the realms at the QB. And these last 2 years, I'm telling you, he's really good. He has a full ride to Angelo State, and we'll hear from him here in a little bit, so stay tuned, guys. Moving on to the next one, we're going to go the other side of the ball. We're going to go, defensive MVP, and for that, James, tell him who won.
A young kid from out at Wall, Brylan White. He's a sophomore. He is a freak out there, man. He's just really good. I think he had 10 sacks all year, 28 tackles. He just lived in the backfield of opposing offenses. We saw it. We watched in the Mason game. He came out and blew up and had 3 sacks. And all I heard about when they started district, they played early, and I heard, early, they haven't given up a sack all season. And on that first drive, he got back there and he had a sack. He is a fantastic player, and that was the one unanimous superlative that we had was this kid is a beast. And he's only a sophomore. He's 15 years old, and he's only a sophomore.
James,
he's a monster.
Yeah, we also have an interview with him, so stay tuned with that one. But when I met the kid, I thought this kid's got to be a senior in high school, and they go, no, He's 15. I mean, he is a man-child, I'm telling you. But he had a lot of sacks, led the Wall defense into the 4th round, and that's really what made Wall what they were this year. Chadwick, what are you thinking about this pick?
Well, I knew that the defensive MVP was going to come from those Wall Hawks. Coach Slaughter has put together the best defense in the Concho Valley. And when we were going through it, like I know Logan Thomas is also really talented. He led the Hawks in tackles, but Brylan White's athleticism, his ferocity at the line, and then his ability to just get after the quarterback, it was a no-brainer for me.
And in this this day and age of football, one of the most important positions you can have is an edge rusher, and I think that's exactly what the role that he played so well, and that made them. They only gave up 6 points or something like that, James.
I think it was 8 points altogether after.
In district they only gave up 8 points.
Canadian put up 45. I think that put them like 8.6 points all year. But I think Brian Wright, he ended up leading the Contra Valley in sacks. I think 10 sacks was the most out of everybody in Contra Valley.
I mean, that's a lot of sacks.
Yeah, and on a team of superstars there at on that Wall defense, because like Chadwick said, they had Logan Thomas who had a fantastic year. Caleb Ballas had a good year. Will Shear had a good year. Ryan Allen had a good year. Jaden Sellers, Dylan Gidney was, the partner in crime for Brylan out there. They were both ends. I think they ended up having like 20 sacks together, 19 sacks together. I think Gidney had 9 sacks. Just a fantastic team, just a fantastic defense. And they were young too, so they're going to be there next year. I think they're probably going to return. How many did he say they're going to return? Like 8?
17 starters.
17
total?
starters total. So
That's
to say half of those will be on defense.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to be pretty tough next year. That's for sure. And we'll talk a little bit more about the Wall Hawks here in a second. But first, we got to go back and do the offensive MVP. Of course, Tyler Hill played offense, but he was our overall MVP. But we have an offensive MVP, and it was someone who really deserved it. And between him and Tyler Hill, we were kind of arguing around the office over the past 2 weeks of who's going to be the MVP because it was such a close run. James, I want you to announce this and tell everybody why, and I know that you were on the side of maybe making him the MVP, but go ahead and name the offensive MVP for the COVER1 2022 team.
Yeah, I got outvoted on this one, but our COVER1 2022 season offensive MVP is Jaime Butron. He's a junior quarterback from Sonora. He had 2,000 yards on the ground. I think he put up 1,600 yards through the air, 16 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. And I mean, I don't want to discount his defense either. He had 6 interceptions. That's the most interceptions I've seen out of anybody.
Yeah.
Looking through all these stats. So.
And for throwing as much as he does, that's pretty impressive.
Oh no! He had.
You're talking about on the defense.
On the defensive side, yeah. I didn't want to take away from his defense. He played defense too. So, because down there at Sonora, you play both ways a lot of the small schools.
Right.
And he lit it, but for offense, he lit it up this year. I mean, he really did. He was like Tyler Hill. He was the gear that made that team run, that made them go. Coach Weston put a lot of trust into him, and he's going to be special next year. That's the
good thing. He's coming back.
That was Tyler Hill and Butron were both neck and neck as far as I was concerned, and they were both fantastic players, and Butron absolutely, deserves offensive MVP, and he's a very good football player.
No doubt, and we'll hear from Jaime here in a little bit. But first, Chadwick, what did you think about the pick? And I know that you kind of were arguing it with Tyler Hill, and you maybe picked the Tyler Hill side, but say something good about Jaime anyways, because he was that good this year.
Yeah, I'm not taking anything away from how good Jaime Butron was. I was just arguing. I was just on the other side of the fence.
You're just a homer.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Homer, no. I voted for the best player in the Contra Valley. That's what I voted for. But as good as Tyler Hill is Jaime Butron is also an incredible athlete. Like James says, he plays on both sides of the ball, and he plays both sides of the ball well. At quarterback, he was always a danger if he ever got outside the pocket. He had a lot of touch on his deep passes, and he was hard to bring down. So like when we got a dual threat quarterback that's shifty once he gets into the open field, it's always going to cause problems for a defense. It's really hard to game plan for. It gives defensive coordinators nightmares. So yeah, congratulations to Butron because he had an incredible season.
For sure. And then our last big award that we gave away is, of course, the Coach of the Year. Now, there's a million coaches in the Concho Valley, and all of them were really good this year. We had many teams that made pretty big runs. We had teams that, maybe weren't supposed to be good that ended up being good, and, there was tons of coaches to pick from. But we decided to rock with the coach that, showed us the most love and also took his team to the fourth round of the playoffs, and that is head coach Houston Guy of the Wall Hawks. Me and Chadwick were talking earlier. Coach Guy is one of those coaches who, of course, he's hands-on with his kids, but he runs that program like he's the general manager. He has full trust in all of his staff to do the right thing, whether it's, Slaughter on defense, his offensive guys, his linebackers, and he talks about it in our interview that we have later, so be on the lookout for that. But, guys, let's talk about why maybe we decided to pick Coach Guy as our Coach of the Year.
He was just very open and honest with us every time we spoke to him. He trusted us that, we weren't going to make anybody look bad and that we were going to just be, just great, great to them. And we were, and he was awesome with us. I mean, every time we went out there, Chadwick and I went out there one time and we had a 45-minute conversation with him off camera, just talking about his team and just football. And I think 20 of that was dedicated just to his quarterback. He's just gushing about how good his quarterback was. And how much work his quarterback put in, and he was just awesome this year, man. And they went 4 rounds deep. You can't really argue that. Someone else should. And this wasn't an easy one either. That there were a bunch of good other coaches out there who could have very easily have won this award, but he's been at a small school for 17 years, and you don't do that unless they like you and you win, and that's something Coach Guy's done a lot of out there.
See, I was also gonna go into the fact that Coach Guy brings the Wall Hawks to the playoffs every year. Like, he always is making a run, and the Wall Hawks have had several teams that go deep, but this one in particular, they weren't supposed to be this good this year. They were one of the youngest teams in their district. They had the fewest amount of seniors starting on both sides of the ball, and they had the most freshmen and sophomores registered on their team. And despite that, that's a testament to how athletic these players are, but also to the entire coaching staff. Coach Guy said that one of the key things about his coaching staff is that there isn't a lot of turnover. You can really build a culture around this football team, a winning culture, if you have the same guys in place, believing the same things like every year. And so it's more like, even when you are one of the youngest teams in your district, it doesn't matter. You just reload, fire again. So congratulations, Coach Guy, and it's always been a pleasure talking to you.
All right, and those are going to be our big awards that we're going to give away. Of course, be looking at the bottom of this video and the article on SanAngeloLive.com for the full list. We're about to go to the Tyler Hill interview. He was our MVP of the year, but before we do that, guys, I want to tell you about All-American Chevrolet of San Angelo. It's the fun place to buy a car, and right now they're having their red tag deal. Find your tag, find your deal, and you can get something like this, a 2022 Chevy Equinox with $1,500 total cash allowance with your $500 bonus cash from your red tag. Now, if you like this, go see him today, 203 North Bryant, or give him a call, 325-203-5425. If you want to see what else they have, go check out their inventory online at All-American Chevrolet of San Angelo. All right, we're going to go to the Tyler Hill interview now. This was a good one. It was led by Brian Chadwick and him. They sat down. The two knew each other really well, so it was a very good interview. And, of course, in the middle, we had to check out that awesome play that happened in Abilene Wiley. So, against Abilene Wiley. So, for that, here's Brian Chadwick.
All right, now we are here with quarterback of the Central Bobcats, Tyler Hill. Tyler, welcome.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Glad to have you, man. So we wanted to sit down and first of all, congratulations on being chosen for the MVP of our COVER1 awards. Again, it's something that we all voted on. The guys here at San Angelo Live, and of course all the coaches and whatnot. We all got the suggestions and what. So, congratulations! You had a heck of a season.
Yes, sir.
Just go through with me a little bit just on your overall thoughts on your senior football season.
For me, my senior football season was a big jump from my junior season. I thought I had a lot better season than I did my junior season. I thought overall as a senior season it was way better. As far as my stats went, as far as my overall performance on the field went, and I feel like just overall, just my performance as a senior was a lot better, from my junior to senior year, and I thought that was a good thing to see and see from my junior to senior year, and so yes, sir.
Yeah, and I actually have your stats right here. So we're looking at 164 for 272, 2,341 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 1,380 rushing yards, and 20 touchdowns. See, I was a running back, so I know what I would have picked in this. But what is the favorite part of that stat line for you?
I like the fact that I'm listed as a dual threat quarterback. I like the fact that I'm able to run and throw and be a threat at both aspects of the game. I've never really considered myself or thought, and when I was little, thought I would be a dual threat quarterback. But that's what I am, and that's what I've kind of grown to be is a dual threat quarterback. And so being able to have a run game and a high throw game is just it's awesome to me. And again, my senior year and having these stats that I do, I look back at it and it's just a cool thing to see. And so,
was there a specific quarterback? Like I know you said you never saw yourself as a dual threat quarterback, but once you became one, like what can you compare your game? Who can you compare your game most to? Like we got guys like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. Like they're all dual threat guys.
Right.
Which one would you consider to be the one that you emulate the most?
Probably Josh Allen. I really like Josh Allen as a quarterback. I mean, just as soon as
we all, right?
love his background story. Love the way he plays. So probably Josh Allen if I was to compare myself to any pro quarterback. So.
Yeah, and that stat line, 22 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. You always love seeing anything more than a 2-to-1 ratio, especially at the high school level. I myself personally think that that's your biggest area of growth from last year to this year, because like I said when we were talking on the phone a couple days ago, I've been watching you play since you were in ninth grade. So
yes, sir.
It was pretty awesome seeing you as a sophomore. Playing receiver with your brother on the field as well, and then of course switching over to quarterback full time.
Yes, sir.
But do you still got the wheels? Do you think you can still play receiver?
I give crack jokes to the coaches about it all the time. I go and bother Coach Crane about it and tell him, hey, let me play a little bit of receiver song, and tell him no. So
it's like, no, get out of here.
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly,
but Ben wants reps at quarterback coach.
I know. That's me and Ben talk about it too. If we could just switch for one or two games, just
or even a series.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
That's what I'm saying. It's just a talk that But yes, I've always thought about the fact that if I can go back to receiver, I'd kind of like to see what I could do now compared to what I did my sophomore year. But yeah, I think if just a couple weeks of practicing receiver, I feel like I would do just fine. Speaking of the fact that I did okay in my sophomore year, so.
Okay. Yeah. I think you did a little bit better than okay, but hey, I like the humility. Speaking of Ben Imler, there was a particular play this year that even made national headlines. Like I saw this on ESPN, I saw it on ESPN TikTok and all that. So let's go ahead and take a look at that right now.
Yes, sir.
I'm still in awe of the way that sequence went down. Like, you could hear me in the background on that video in the press box just shouting, no way, because like y'all made it to about, what was it, like the 48 about? Yeah. And then like when I see you drop back, just take me through that play real quick.
Man, so I mean, so the play before that we had it was actually the kickoff return that Kevon Rice did, and it was a crucial run by him that put us in position for that play. And so when he called that play, we were originally supposed to run one of our other trick plays. However, we called timeout and then switched it up right before we ran it. So he called Hail Mary, and I knew that this was going to be a tough one. Of course, mind's racing, adrenaline's running, so it's just like you're not thinking about it hardly. So when that play was ran, I snapped the ball and kind of stepped up in the pocket, just kind of waiting for the play to develop, and had one of the DTs come up and try to tackle me.
How did you get out of that?
See, I don't know. As soon as I got tackled, he had wrapped around me, and I heard Wiley's crowd going absolutely bizarre. I managed to get out. I don't know how. Just kind of swung around and then just slipped my way through it, and then kind of reversed the field. Just one of the craziest things that I've ever done as a football player. One of the craziest things that's ever happened in a football game. And just when I circled around, Aiden Barone had made the block, crucial block again, just kind of getting in his way, nothing too much to draw a flag. And then when I went up to step and throw, I thought I was going to get hit. And as a matter of fact, when I went and stepped up and throw that, I think that kid got a hand on it. The ball didn't come out as pretty, but I managed to get to Ben's hands. Ben was able to then reverse the field again to get in for the end zone. And so as soon as it happened, everyone's going crazy, but you still didn't process the fact of what just happened. Again, like I said, it wasn't until a couple days later where it was just everything just sunk in and everything was just popping up on TikTok and Instagram by all these famous accounts. Yeah,
special,
it was.
Yeah. So, and especially as a Bobcat alumni, like some of your coaches were on my team and my little brother's team now. So like it's just one of those. Like I know as an ex-Bobcat football player on that team, like I was so happy for y'all that night. I was like, that is a special moment. In fact, I remember in the interview, because I interviewed you and Ben after the game, I was like, remember this. Like, this is special. You will remember this moment the rest of your lives.
Yes,
so, like, when you're sitting 10 years down the line with a couple of your buddies that you still see sometimes, like, hey, man, you remember when? Like, oh, and then it will just come back to you. So,
absolutely.
Hopefully, like, you got a bunch of more of those memories to make,
hopefully,
still.
Yes, sir.
And speaking of which, like I know that you still have track this year, but do you plan on continuing playing football in college?
I do. So far, I'm verbally committed to Angelo State University here in town. As of right now, I plan on going there and playing football over there. Of just
national title contender there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great program that I'd love to be in. However, I'm still kind of, since it is a Division II, I'm still waiting. Still got a little bit of time to kind of see what else comes my way, anything bigger and with better opportunities. But as of right now, just Angelo State's on my mind, and I'm verbally committed there.
So is it quarterback all the way, or if you get talked to by Division I and they want you to switch back to like a receiver or like a safety or something, is that something you would consider?
I've always kind of been that, Division I, Division II, kind of pick Division I wherever they want me. I've always played quarterback. The rest, my whole life, I've just always been, quarterback. However, I'm obviously able to play receiver if I'm able to. So if something like that does happen, it would definitely be a huge thought in my mind where I just have to think about it and pray about it. But I mean, it's whatever for me. Like I wouldn't mind it. I mean, football's football.
Oh, yeah.
At the end of the day. So but again, Division I, Division II. It's my dreams is to play Division I football. So if anything happens, then take care of itself. So
of course. And let's get back to this season just real quick. Of course, didn't quite end up how any of us wanted. That El Paso team was incredibly talented. Kept up with them for most of the game. We had a couple turnovers in that game, especially that last fumble that shouldn't have been a fumble. Forward progress was stopped. I'm not bitter about it, I promise. Right. Just kind of talk me through the emotions of the aftermath of that game and how that has helped you grow as not only a person but a player, like, you know what I mean? So,
yeah, I mean, the emotions after that game is really sunk in is after the game. It was before the game even ended. I remember it just being like 2 minutes left, but we were still like, 2 touchdowns behind, so there's just no way. And, they had the ball and they were just eating the clock up. And really that's when the emotions starting to kick in for everybody. And I'm just, over there on the sidelines with everybody just hugging and just crying, and it's a good thing to see, but it's not. But just kind of just see the kids that you've played with forever. It's just those emotions really kicking in. Those are one of the best emotions that I've ever felt. It's just one of the greatest things to be a part of is that time with your teammates. Just the fact that you've been playing with them forever, and that time's coming to an end. And so really the emotions is just, it's. For me, it's pushed me. The emotions weren't as much as for me, just knowing the fact that I'm I got football after this, as most of these kids don't. However, for me, it was just the fact that, man, it's the last time I'm going to play with these kids, these in particular kids, because after this, I'm going to be playing with kids that I don't know, I'll eventually, be friends with. But
It's just like a giant reset
yeah,
button.
this is absolutely reset button, yes, sir. But those emotions for me, just it's driven me to love football more and to hold on to it better, and just to not take football for granted anymore. Just take everything I got and push myself to be a better football player, and not take anything for granted. So.
And final question here, Tyler. We brought up your teammates just now. I just give me your thoughts on them. Just talk about the guys that meant the most to you on this team this year, or if there wasn't any particulars. Just talk about the guys for a minute.
Man, I wouldn't want to play with anybody else but those guys. Those guys were great. Just loved the team. As far as my offensive team goes, I love my offensive linemen.
Of course, yeah.
One of my closest people to me. It's a great time with them. I mean, my receivers, I just love the way me and my receivers clicked. I love the fact that I was able to hit a lot of the receivers, multiple receivers that just and yeah, Jacob English was my main target, but I was able to connect with more than even first string and second string. I was able to just connect with all of them. So just the connection, even that, as football went on, I just got to build a stronger connection with my receivers, and even even my running backs. I mean, we had 3 running backs that did well this year.
Oh, yeah.
Aiden, Tyree, and Javion. And I love the fact that we had depth on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, it seemed like even your wide receivers, each one of them had big play, whether it was Kevon or Jacob, or of course, both Jacobs.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, but again, for me, it was an incredible season overall. It was a lot of fun to watch y'all play. But yeah, man, congratulations on receiving this award. Hopefully this is definitely an award show that will gain some traction moving forward. Sure. And the whole reason we're doing it is just for y'all. We want to give you guys recognition, just more exposure out there, just trying to get more people to look at the Concho Valley.
Yes, sir.
So again, I'm going to say congratulations, and thanks for coming in, man.
Absolutely. Well, thank y'all for everything y'all done, and what y'all are doing here. That means a lot. So thank y'all again.
This is Central's QB1, Tyler Hill, our MVP of the COVER1 Awards.
I've always known that I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to help students maximize their potential. It's something that I'm good at. But planning for my financial freedom, that's something I leave for a professional. That's why I chose to team up with the advisors at Tiemann Investments. They not only understand me and my goals, but they understand the market, what's important now and in the future. They provided world-class advice, right where I am, here in West Texas. Connect with Tiemann Investments to visualize your financial dreams.
That was such a good interview with Tyler Hill. Is a very well-spoken young man. Chadwick, before we move on to this first team, just kind of give me your post thoughts on that interview.
I think it went really well. It was an easy conversation. He seemed just a tiny bit nervous as soon as we started, but as soon as the first question was out of the way, it was a very natural conversation. There were several times throughout the interview that Matt had to tell me, he's like, all right, man, come on, let's go.
Yeah, I didn't want it to be, an hour long, but you guys could sit there and talk forever.
It really was one of those where it felt like a genuine conversation. So he did a great job, and he has a little bit of experience behind a camera, and I'm sure that will continue. But yeah, overall, great interview.
Okay, well, now it's time to move on. Let's go ahead and announce the first team, the All Cover One first team. And for that, here is James Bellini.
All right, everybody, here we go. Our first team, our quarterback, of course, Tyler Hill. He's the quarterback there at Central. Had a fantastic season. And we have 2 running backs on the first team. Our first running back is J.D. Ibarra from Brady. He had over 1,000 yards and 16 touchdowns this year. He played very well for him. Our second running back, Hunter O'Bannon from Sonora. He's a senior. I think he had 1,400 rushing yards. And him and Butron were partners in crime down there. They were great. We have 3 receivers. Our first receiver, Carson Ellison from Miles. He had almost 700 yards. I think he was 1 yard shy of 700 yards, 10 or 11 touchdowns. He played great for that group of guys, for the Bulldogs and Jason Wilhelm. His quarterback Haven Book. They probably had a great year with him. Our second receiver, Keegan Ferris from Brady. That dude had over 1,100 yards, He played tremendous for those guys out there. And our third receiver, Jacob English, of course, that was Tyler Hill's go-to guy. He was their speed guy, the guy who broke defenses wide open. We had plenty of film of him running down the sidelines for touchdowns.
Yep.
Moving under offensive line, we got 5 offensive linemen. Elijah Samaniego from Sonora. That was the guy who went in for a flu shot and passed out and hit his head on the table. And, just to show you how important that guy was to their team, they weren't sure he was going to play that week. So it was kind of back and forth. Will he, won't he? Ended up not playing. And that was that Farwell game in the playoffs. He had a 97% grade for the season. So he is very important to that team down there. And that the backup stepped up and did a great job. But yes, Samaniego, great player. Our second offensive lineman, Sebastian Salinas from Cristobal. They had road graders out there at Cristobal. I think he had like 42 pancake blocks this year. Just a great unit of offensive line out there at Cristobal. Our third guy, Braxton Elias from El Dorado, had a great season for those guys. Next guy, Lee Brake from Wall. He had a fantastic season. We had Coach Guy in here. He kind of listed off his guys. Said, man, Lee Brake is he's our offensive lineman guy out there. He's our offensive guy. He's great. And then our last guy is Kevin Avila from Brady. I think he had graded out like a 95 or something, or 92. Great season from those guys. Brady had very well represented on this first team. On to the defensive side, of course, Brylan White made our first team defensive end. Our second guy, this might cause a little bit of controversy. It wouldn't be Sangelo Live, cover 1 without starting a little bit of controversy. But I went ahead and put Nikolai Nelson on there. He and Dylan Gidney were pretty much neck and neck. And the reason I kind of went with the Cristobal kid is we heard Coach Oath at the beginning of the year talk about how hard this kid worked and how important he was. And he talked about he called him every day during the offseason. He was out there working hard every day during the offseason. And so congratulations to Nikolai Nelson. There are only 2 defensive ends, so there were some tough ones here. Our next guy, Holton Wilson from Miles. He was a leader out there on that defense. Defensive tackle, great guy, great player. Our next guy, our next defensive tackle, Sam Griffin from El Dorado. We heard all about this guy throughout the offseason. We knew he was going back, and we knew he was a big, tough guy to move. Congratulations, man. You got our first team second defensive tackle. Our linebacker was tough this year. There were a ton of good linebackers out there. Our first linebacker, though, Taven White from the north side, Lakeview out there. Taven White had over 100 tackles, was a great player for those guys out there. Edgar DeLuna is our next guy. He is from Sonora. He had almost 200 tackles this season. He was a big part of that defense. And our third guy, Darius Floyd from Central. He had over how many tackles was that, Chadwick?
He had over 100 tackles. He was by far the most athletic and the most talented person on that Central defense, and it was his first year playing linebacker.
Yeah, he absolutely deserves to be on this first team. And then we got into our DBs. We had Darian Reyes from Sonora. That kid, he wasn't some corner who was going to ride that block and push the guy out of bounds. I was at that only game. He was coming up making tackles from that corner position. And I think he had like 5 interceptions this year. Great kid. Our next guy, Eduardo Encinas from Reagan County. I think he had 5 interceptions too. Just another great player. Michael Duran from Lakeview. He made the list. He had 5 interceptions, I believe. Just absolutely tremendous from that that secondary out there at Lakeview. Who had there at the beginning of the year they were on fire, and then I think their running back went down or something. Great kid, great season for those guys. Next guy, Luke Gold from Central. He had 4 or 5 interceptions. Just great. I guess 4 interceptions. My bad. And then our special teams guy, Pierce Jameson. 5. My bad. 5 interceptions. I apologize, Luke. I took one away from you there. Our next guy, Pierce Jameson from Wall, the kicker or special teams guy. I think he was nominated for the best 3A kicker in Texas at one point. And then our utility guy, Tristan Himes, from out there at Sterling City. Kid played tremendous this year. He had like 800 yards. And on defense, he had like 80 tackles. And he ran pissed off at the world. And then finally, our first team head coach, Trey Cisco from Sterling City. Again, that dude they weren't even supposed to make the playoffs this year. Nobody expected them to do what they did, and they made it 2 rounds deep. And Trey Cisco went from 11-man to 6-man, and then back to 11-man. tremendous job, coach. You deserve our first team. And that's our first team right there. That's our first team.
All right. That was
Our
pretty
all
good. That's
cover one
pretty big.
first
I mean,
team.
that's a pretty good list. Chadwick, who are some of the names that stand out to you, and who is really notable from this list?
I think it's important to note that Jacob English, the wide receiver from Central, he made this list. He had over 700 yards and 8 touchdowns in only 8 games. He was hurt. He missed 3 games this year. So, know that to be said. Like he put up similar stats to all these guys, and he only played in 8 games.
Yeah,
So,
and man, he showed out all year when they needed something big. We knew exactly who they were going to, and that was Tyler Hill and Jacob English. Anybody else, James, that you want to mention on this list? Because there are a bunch of kids, and you can say good things about all of them, but who's probably one of those most notable kids on that list?
Man, I think Nikolai Nelson deserves a shout out, man. He Cristobal kind of had, a so-so season, but they did make the playoffs, and they played Hawley in the first round. But Nelson, we heard all year about that kid from out there in Seatown. Otho talked about him preseason, talked about how much work he's put in. And even at the playoff game last year I was at when they played Burton and Llano, I kept hearing this Nelson kid's name. I'm like, who is this kid? He's making plays constantly for him. He's making tackle after tackle, and I think he's one of the notable names on there because he knocked Gidney onto a different team, and Gidney is a fantastic player. So yeah, we just I can name all of them. I mean, I put this list together. I can talk about all of them.
Yeah, exactly. To me, the ones that stand out the most, of course, when you're a senior and it's, this is your final year, that's all nice and well. But I think the ones who are notable, of course, are the younger guys that are on this list, like Elijah Saminego and let's see, who's
Brylan White.
No, I'm looking for the other junior. Okay, yeah, Edgar DeLuna, of course, from Sonora, and then Brylan White from Wall. These guys are going to be probably on the list next year. These are the guys who you're going to want to watch out for. They're probably some of the best young players in the Concho Valley right now. And speaking of Brylan White, we had him in studio, and James did that interview. So for that, we will go to James Bellini with Brylan White.
Hello, everybody. I'm James Bellini. I'm here with Brylan White. He's a sophomore out at Wall. He's a defensive end. He won our COVER1 first team defensive end and COVER1 defensive MVP. Brylan, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. First off, let's talk about your season. Obviously didn't end the way you wanted to, but you made it 4 rounds deep. Kind of talk about that postseason run.
It was a good run. A lot of hard work. I gotta give it to my team. We wouldn't be here without them, and it's just a big team. We all came together, and just went on from there.
Man, your defensive coordinator, Craig Slaughter, I think he rebuilt that defense completely a couple years ago, and now he's just hitting stride with y'all. Y'all only gave up like 8 points a game all season. How much does Slaughter just influenced y'all? How much do y'all respect? I mean, obviously I respect him a lot, but just talk about his influence on you guys.
His influence has put a big impact on us. He pushes us beyond our limits and just shows us like he cares about us, and pretty much that's all.
Man, and then all season long, I think y'all went 11-2. And we talked a little bit before about how you really start hitting stride in that Mason game. Mason's a really good team. How do you? I think you had 3 sacks that game. Mm-hmm. Talk about that game when you just finally broke out and just.
It was a good game. It's one of my better games this season, but I don't know.
Just one of those things, man, where. And no, that's all right, man. But you started breaking out that game, and you never looked back. I mean, you ended up with like 10 sacks all season, over 20 quarterback hurries, and tackles for loss. You just lived in the backfield, man. You're fantastic. That's why you're our defensive player of the year, man.
Yes, sir.
But just kind of show the people what I did was I went around and I got dog tags made up. So go ahead and show the camera them dog tags real quick. Those dog tags, they say it says first team defensive end and then defensive player of the year, man. Congratulations.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
What do you want to do with this? Obviously, next year, going into next year. Mm-hmm. I know it's basketball season, but football is, football's king in West Texas, and obviously that's what y'all want to, where do you want to take this? You want to obviously you want to keep playing ball, right? So just kind of talk about what, your aspirations are for football, just next year.
I hope we go all the way next year, but we all got to put that work in, and it's not going to be easy. It's going to be the same teams we play this year, and I hope we can get a long way next year.
Well, shoot, I mean, one thing was Walt. Y'all had a really young team. You know, you're a sophomore, and I think your quarterback, you know, Gunnar Diller, I think he's a sophomore too, and there were a ton of juniors out there. So y'all have, you know, the ability to really. How do you know how many guys y'all are bringing back next year? How many seniors y'all had out there and starting?
We lost 3 seniors on defense and 4 on offense. So we'll be returning a lot.
So yeah, you're returning a whole bunch, and all that continuity is going to help, man. You know, just yeah, congratulations, man.
Yes, sir, thank you.
This has been a short, little, quick interview with Brylan White. Stay tuned for the rest of the show.
What a great interview. You know, the young kid, he's kind of wet behind the ears.
He's
still.
a little green.
Yeah, he's a little green still, but at the end of the day, it was still a good interview. And what a football player. I'm telling y'all guys, the kid was only 15. He don't look 15. Guys, before we move on, I want to tell you about Davis Woodfin at Edward Jones. He's a financial advisor that can make sense of this crazy economy that we're living in. Go see him today, 4102 South Jackson, or give him a call, 325-249-0082. That's Davis Woodfin with Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Before we move on, though, James, I want to ask you, because you kind of did the interview, what was your final thoughts from that interview, and just kind of what are you thinking about Brylan White?
I think he's a little green. I think that's probably his first interview he's ever done. But if he keeps playing the way he's going to play,
there's a lot more.
Yeah, there's
coming.
a lot more interviews coming his way.
Yeah.
So, but he was just a superstar in a team of stars, man. He handled it very well.
And he's only a sophomore.
His dad might think he has a big head, but hey,
Yeah.
We'll
There
keep
was
him
some
in
kids,
check.
and when we get to the Jaime Butron interview, y'all will see the difference of maybe someone whose head's maybe getting a little bit too heavy for their shoulders.
But before we get to all these kids deserve to be on these lists.
Absolutely, absolutely.
They all deserve this. This is what this show is about these kids.
Hey, heck yeah. And moving to the second list, I'm going to go ahead and throw it to Ryan Chadwick. Chadwick, take it away.
All right, all Cover 1 second team. Starting with our quarterback, we got Jaime Butron, quarterback from Sonora. We had 2 running backs, running back Nathan Pepper from Wall and running back Ketcher Joyner from Cristoval. We had 3 wide receivers, wide receiver Cooper Ellison, sophomore from Miles, wide receiver Jalen Johnson, senior over there at San Angelo TLCA. Good job, Eagles. Wide receiver Luke Kemp, another senior from Wall. We had, 5 offensive linemen? Yeah, 1 for every position. We had Brock Ratliff, senior from Cristoval. We had Sterling Cummings, senior from San Angelo Central. We had Eli Hernandez, senior from Reagan County. Landon Melton, senior from Wall. Jacob Martinez from Sonora. And then 2 defensive ends right here. We had Dylan Gidney, of course. I was one of the guys voting for him for the first team, but James did have a good point with that guy from Cristoval. And we also had Aiden Calderon, senior from Sterling City. Defensive tackle James Burney, senior, San Angelo Central. And defensive tackle Eric Paez Jr., a senior from Lakeview. Moving on to the linebackers, we had 3 of them. We had Isaiah Tarr, senior from Brady. Linebacker Angel Botello, senior from Reagan County. Johnny Minifield, sophomore from Brady, another young one. Defensive back, we had Jake Edminston from Cristoval. We had Briggs Jones from Wall and Ryan Allen from Wall. And lastly, Jacoby Yates, San Angelo Central. This is the one guy that I'm actually going to sit here and talk about for a sec. He was one of the most talented athletes on Central's roster. He was one of their kick returners. He played both ways on special teams. He returned a couple kicks for a touchdown. He had a couple blocked field goals. He had 4 interceptions, and he was one of the best corners on the team as well. For our starting place kicker, we had Chase Miller, also from San Angelo Central. He missed 1 extra point all year, and he only missed 2 field goals. I think he was 8 for 10 on field goals and about 66 for 67 or something like that on extra points. Central scored a lot. Utility player, we had Jarrett Brown, sophomore from Reagan County, and of course our head coach was, if I remember, Blake Weston, coach of the Sonora Broncos.
And that was the list for the second group here. James, what names stand out on that list?
Yeah, first off, Dylan Gidney, he very easily could have been on that was another one of those, Butron Hill things. Those guys were neck and neck for me. And I think Nikolai Nelson might have had 3 forced fumbles or something. That might have been what gave it to me. In my mind, it kind of gave me over Gidney. And other guys, the sophomore from Reagan County who made the utility player, he was a quarterback, he was a running back, he was a receiver, and he played defense. He was just everything out there at Big Lake, and he played tremendous. And all them linebackers too. All them linebackers, all them guys had over 100 tackles. So all 6 of the guys so far on these 2 lists have actually had over 100 tackles. So the linebacker was hard to do this year.
I'm going to go with defensive tackle James Burney. I was talking to Coach Crane after the season was over, and I asked him, Coach, what is one of the one players that you are going to miss after they graduate this year? And he told me, he's like, he wasn't one of the best when we started, but, man, he was one of the hardest workers, and he's improved so much, and that is defensive tackle James Burney. He was really the anchor in that central defensive line. Central was honestly really good at times at stopping the run, and he was a big part of that. He blew up the offensive lineman up front. So congratulations, James.
I'm going to go ahead and pick somebody who's not used to probably being in these award shows, and that's a TLCA Eagle. You know, the Eagles have had a tough go at it, but this kid right here, Jalen Johnson at receiver, was a beast this year. And, of course, they have a really good quarterback there, but you couldn't do it without 2 people. And this receiver was a crucial role to getting them into the playoffs for the first time in school history. Also, of course, we got to talk about Jaime Butron. We already talked about him a little bit, but for more on Butron, we had him in. We didn't have him in studio. We zoomed him in, and I got to talk to him for a little bit. So, for that interview, I'll throw to myself. And now we are here with the offensive MVP of this year for our Cover 1 team. It's Jaime Butron. Jaime, what's up, man?
How's it going?
Hey, so it was a great football season for y'all. Y'all went pretty dang far in the playoffs. Y'all had some really good games throughout there that we covered y'all on Cover 1 throughout the year. First of all, let me just get your wrap up of how'd you think the year went for you guys?
I think it went pretty good. I mean, going into 2 days thinking we're gonna go to state, we had a pretty high standard for our season this year, and I think we succeeded it pretty well.
Yeah, I think so too. You know, nobody really expected y'all to do. I mean, not that they expected y'all to be bad, but you know, they didn't expect y'all to be as good as what y'all were. How much do you think that? I don't know. How much do you think you had to do with that?
I think I had a lot to do with that. I mean,
there you go.
Yes, sir.
But why? What? No, explain on that. You know, because there's a lot of stuff that comes into a football season. Of course, y'all had a full team, great defense, but at some point, you know, you had the ball the whole time and you did your thing. I'm gonna run over some stats we got. I think it was like you had over 2,000 yards on the ground. You had 1,600 yards in the air. When the coach asked you to do all those things, what are you thinking?
What was going through my head is, man, we really need to get these yards. We need touchdowns. I'm going to try and do whatever I could to help us out on the team, on the field. And I did what I could as best as I could.
Yeah, that's for sure. You've got some accolades also, more than just what we've given you. What stuff did you win for your district superlatives?
I got district MVP, and that's all I could get. And then I got the Ford Built Tough against Forsham.
Yeah, and why do you think they gave it to you that one? So how many? What's that?
I talked to your coach.
Oh.
He said y'all are still waiting on that plaque from Built Ford.
Oh yeah, you ain't got that. You ain't got your plaque
I don't know.
yet,
They
or
say
what?
it takes a while to build.
Yeah, I guess so. They must. Are they trying to put your stats on there? Is that what's going on? That's what's taking them so long.
I guess so. Honestly, I don't know.
Well, Jaime, you know, this isn't just a one team game. You know, it's not like basketball where if you have the best player out there, you win. This is a team game. So, what do you got to say to your teammates out there? Because you know, without the offensive line, without those guys blocking, without the guys out there catching balls, I mean, you know, what do you got to say towards your teammates out there?
They were a great help, especially our linemen. The good thing is most of them were juniors. We're only losing one. And then we got Hunter and Edgar were a big help. And then Jonah and Kaysen, Dylan, our receivers, they were some good hands out there too. They were great this season.
What about the other side of the ball?
Do what?
How about the other side of the ball?
Oh, our defensive line, man, we had a good defensive line, but we're losing 2 of our ends, Gage and Tanner. But I think we got some shoes to fill for next year. And then our secondary was pretty good. We had some good linebackers, especially Edgar. He had, 190-something tackles.
Yeah, no kidding.
He'll be returning. And then, we'll still be pretty solid next year. We're a junior sophomore team this year.
Yeah,
Not
so
losing 2 years, but
let's talk about that. So next year, like you said, you got a lot of seniors on the team, including yourself.
Yes,
how much is that experience going to be from the playoff run that you guys had and the good season that y'all had? What is that going to do next year? What kind of confidence does that bring? What kind of knowledge does that bring? What are you guys thinking it's going to bring to your team next year, being a senior heavy class?
man, I think next year we're going to state. We're working on it now. We're going to state. All of our guys have that mindset that we're gonna come back next year stronger, faster, and ready to play.
All right, y'all got some off-season stuff. Y'all got some off-season stuff going. You already mentioned what you maxing on the bench here lately?
Right now I'm at 215,
All right.
and then on squad I'm at 405.
All right, hey, that's the more impressive part. So if you're gonna try to tackle this guy, don't be going at his legs. Squatting 405, benching 215. Hey, that's pretty good. What's your goal for next season before we go?
Rushing yards, I'm gonna beat the school record.
School
now,
record? You got that written on your mirror?
I think I was like 100 yards off from it. I think I had one more game in me. I would have beat the record. But I'm gonna beat that record. And I'm gonna get 2,000 plus passing yards, and then I'm gonna get 10 interceptions next year.
I got you. Perfect. So, Jaime, before I let you go, man, we did this for everybody that's going to be on the team. You're one of the only guys that's got 2 of them. You know, we figured this year we'd give dog tags because the thing is, you know, we got to find the guys with the dog in them, and that's what you got. So we got 2 of them. One of them is all COVER1 Offensive Player of the Year, and then all COVER1 Second Team Quarterback. Jaime, you killed it this year. Keep it up, and I guarantee you next year you'll probably be in that running for overall MVP with the goals and aspirations that you got.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
This has been Jaime Butron, the quarterback of the Sonora Broncos. They had a heck of a season. He had a heck of a season. He was the Built Ford Tough Player of the Year. He was his own district's MVP, and he is our COVER1 Offensive MVP of the year. We're going to go back to you guys in the studio. And would you believe that the quarterback of the Sonora Broncos says they're going to win state next year? And heck, I maybe believe him. Moving on. Go down to Angelo Bolt to get everything for this Christmas season. Right now, you can go get gift certificates for whatever you need, especially if you're looking for bolts, nuts, hand tools, power tools, and shop supplies from big companies such as DeWalt. Go see him today, Angelo Bolt and Industrial Supply. It's San Angelo's #1 choice for industrial supplies since 1994. Go see Angelo Bolt today. All right, guys, let's move into the third, the all COVER1 third team, and I'll go ahead and knock this one out. So we're starting at quarterback here with Haven Book. He was a junior at Miles, led them to the first round of the playoffs. Got a little upset on him, but still had a really good season. Johnny Monreal, senior from Sterling City, as running back. Other running back, Ian Cortez of Lakeview. Got 3 receivers. Tyler Walker from San Angelo Central, junior from El Dorado, Ethan Elias, and a senior from San Angelo TLCA, Kelby Thomas. Moving on to the offensive line. Tackle, we got Lane Hogan, senior at Sterling City. The other side, John Capeta from Lakeview. For our guards, Eric Martinez from San Angelo Central and Cade Miller from Miles. And then, of course, the center from Wall, it was J.D. Reed. Moving on to the defensive side of the ball, we got Lane Godfrey, sophomore from Miles, and Jackson Patillo, sophomore from Miles. That's 2 sophomores from Miles, defensive ends on this third team. Defensive tackles, Jaden Sellers from Wall, Robert Barrera from Ozona. Linebackers, Tony Kamieg from El Dorado, Ruben Bernal from Reagan County, and Logan Thomas from Wall. For our defensive backs, there's Ethan Bush from Cristobal, Cass Johnson from Sterling City, Caleb Valls from Wall, and Nick Franklin, sophomore from Reagan County. For our special teamer, we got Isaiah Boggs from Cristobal, Our utility back is Max Everett from Ozona. And, of course, we couldn't leave him off the list. Head coach Kevin Crane is the third team coach of the year. Guys, let's talk about the list a little bit for the third team. James, I'll throw it to you first.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we can talk about all these guys, but I do want to highlight Haven Book. He was, again, there are only 3 quarterback spots on we only did 3 teams, 3 quarterback spots, and he had 51 touchdowns this year. He threw for over like 2,000 yards. He ran
balled out.
Yeah, I mean, he was just like Jaime Butron, just like Tyler Hill. He was the year that made that team go. He had great receivers, good running backs, and I thought they might have been a team that could have made it 2 or 3, 4 rounds deep in the playoffs. I certainly didn't like that they had to play Sterling City in the first round, but yeah, that Haven Book kid, he's the kid to watch out for. He's kind of built like a stick figure right now, but he puts on a little bit of weight. He could be tremendous for us.
Go see him play at the next level somewhere.
Absolutely.
I'll go ahead and take over from here. I want to give a shout out to Ian Cortez, the running back out at Lakeview. Lakeview kind of was dealt a pretty bad hand this year. They had multiple injuries throughout the year. They were constantly missing guys, and so that always hampered their performance on Thursdays and Fridays. But Ian Cortez was one of the constants. He was a very talented running back. He put up over 500 yards rushing, and he got in the end zone a bunch. Congratulations to you, Ian Cortez. And I know that us here at Central Live and Coach Guevara is proud of your performance. Also want to throw out a shout out to Logan Thomas. He got the 3A District 2 3A MVP from UIL. So congratulations to that man. I know you're on the third team on this list, but everyone had over 100 tackles on the first 2 teams. But like, I know you still had 80, and then you still forced most fumbles on your team. So I'm just giving you a special shout out too.
Yeah, linebacker was by far the hardest position to get guys on, because you want to include all of them, but they're not participation trophies, man.
Of course, we gotta pick them out. We gotta argue, and we gotta figure out which one it was. And that's what we did, and that's what we came to the conclusion with. For this third team, I want to mention some. Usually it's easy to talk about the guys who score all the touchdowns, but it doesn't always happen. You don't always win the game without this position, and that is the center. J.D. Reed for the Wall Hawks was crucial this year. Had on the third team because he missed a few games. But he was very crucial to that Wall Hawk team. They when he was out, they were running 4 different centers, and man, it was looking rough against Mason. They could barely get a snap, right? So he was very important to them, and that's why he made this team. Because at the end of the day, the offensive line has to be appreciated, because without those big guys, who knows where they would be, and that's for sure true when you're running the triple option over there at Wall. So we're going to talk a little bit more about J.D. Reed, and for that, here is all of us. We went and we got Coach Guy here in studio, and let's go to that interview now. And now we are here with our final guest of the evening. It is our Coach of the Year, head coach of the Wall Hawks. It's head coach Houston Guy. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's a little bit chilly today, but it's not too bad. It's nice and warm in here, toasty.
Definitely so. We'll go ahead and bring in the other guys with Ryan Chadwick and James Bellini. Guys, let's start this question off.
Oh, you want to start the question?
Yeah, go.
Oh,
yeah.
All right, Coach. You made it 4 rounds deep in the playoffs this year. Kind of just talk about how your season went. Just from 2-a-days. Talk about just 2-a-days all the way through.
We had a great group of seniors that came in. The leadership that those guys brought was fantastic. They came in, and we had a lot of young kids this year coming back from our team from last year. But those guys, they stepped up and led like we need our senior leadership to do. And those guys were great examples of how we attacked people in the weight room, how we attacked people on the field. The leadership that they brought to the table was, I think, part of the reason, or a big reason, of why we had so much success.
Coach, at the beginning of the season, everybody was kind of worried. Wall has this very young football team. Are they going to be the Wall of the past that we've seen dominate? And we did end up seeing that. How much do you think that has to do with the coaching aspect of this thing?
I think that that's a huge part of it. We don't have a whole lot of turnover at Wall. When we come and we start each year, all of our coaches are usually on the same page. That's a hat off to our administration and our community for allowing us to stay together as well as we have. But there's not a whole lot of teaching curve in our coaching staff from year to year. You're not having to coach new guys coming in about what we're going to do on certain situations or what we're going to do on game day or how we're going to handle our practices. They've all been on the same page for quite a while, and that's one of those things that I think that speaks volumes to our community for allowing us to stay together like they have, because to me that's one of the big reasons we have so much success is the lack of turnover. Everybody's understands what their role is and how to do it, but that's a big part.
And Coach, speaking of your entire coaching staff, talk about the guys who are there like every single day, just for a minute. Like you can name drop them if you want to, but with the guys who just epitomize what your ideology and your coaching philosophy represents.
We'll start with our defensive side. Those guys did a great job this year. They were the reason. Early in the season we struggled offensively. Our defense really kind of held us together. They won a lot of ball games for us as our offense kind of started to pick it up. That took a lot of pressure off our young kids on the offensive side. And at times in our backfield, I tell people we had a freshman and 3 sophomores in our backfield throughout the year, and that's hard on those young kids. And defensively, for those guys to allow those guys to develop without losing any games, that was big. Defensively, I thought each week we were, our kids are always prepared. They play, with reckless abandonment. And so, starting with that defensive side, you have Coach Slaughter, who's our defensive coordinator. And then you have Coach Warren, who is our defensive line coach. Coach White, who is our linebacker coach. And those three, and Coach Morrison also helps in the secondary. He helps Coach Slaughter in the secondary. And those guys, I tell people all the time, Coach Slaughter coaches kind of like his hair's on fire, although he doesn't have any. I'll point that out. But, he coaches like his kids play, and our kids love that, and they feed off that. On the offensive side of the ball, we have our offensive coordinator, Coach Bills, does a fantastic job. We have Coach Launderholm, who is our running back coach, and then we have Coach Schneers, who is our wide receiver tight end coach, and then our junior high coaches that helped us this year, Coach Furr and Coach Lyons, have also been instrumental in the success we've had. And so we couldn't have done it without everybody on the same page and pulling together. And those guys did a fantastic job.
All right, Coach. We talked about this earlier in the season, but you talked about it. You had a really young team this year. How did this team kind of stack up with the teams in the past that you've had, that have made it 4 rounds, deep into the playoffs? How did this team kind of stack up against all those teams? And I'm not saying throw shade at any of them, but
right.
Just kind of how would you put this team among all those others?
I think all the teams that we've had that have been very successful at Wall, they're all uniquely different. Some of them may have a great quarterback or a great running back or a great offensive line, and one of those things that we saw this year, again, I refer to our defenses, how well they played and kept us in ball games. But, I thought this team probably grew more than any throughout the season. We started out offensively, we struggled, and once we hit our groove about early is when I think our quarterback started to kind of grow into his role as an option quarterback. That was the very first game. I felt like that he started to understand exactly what we're asking of him and actually started to execute that. And so this team probably grew more from the beginning to the very end than any other team we've had. Most of the other teams we've had started out, they were very successful both sides of the ball. They could play ball control offense, or they could play hurry up offense, or they could play, they played really solid defense. And so I would say this team in general, it grew more than any of them over the course of a football season.
One thing that we kind of talked about throughout the year on this COVER1 show, one of those games you guys played, you had a backup center in, and there was a lot of trouble with that center quarterback exchange.
Oh, the Mason game.
We had a few fumbles, and there were some people on this show. I'm not going to say it was me because you're right here, but it was kind of like, what's going on with this Wall Hawk team? So how did y'all end up get over that hump and just get over those maybe small mistakes to turn this into a team that goes 4 rounds in the playoffs?
So I'll say this, and not many people know this, is J.D. Reed was our starting center, and he came into the season with a herniated disc and didn't play the first couple ball games. And as we thought we could get him back, but we weren't real sure. So we were going with our backup plans. Our backup plans was 3 different defensive linemen. And to keep those guys fresh, we thought, well, we'll rotate one in and one out and keep them fresh as the season goes. And it worked all right. But as we got to Mason, we were bringing JD back a little bit. And you know, it's one of those things where you kind of look back and maybe it wasn't the best decision. We played 4 different centers in that Mason game.
Right,
trying to get those guys fresh and keep them fresh and to work JD in some. And as a testament to JD, every time he was in, we didn't really have any quarterback center exchanges. But when you exchange a center out that many times in a game, it's very difficult for your quarterback to get acclimated to that one snap and that one kid snapping it all the time. It's a little bit different when you rotate 4 guys in, one of them being a lefty. It was very difficult, and that was one of those things. After that game, we knew we kind of had to get rid of 2 of those guys. We felt like 4 was too much. One of them, Jaden Sellers, was one that came in and said, "Hey, I'll step up and take more of that role." Although we used Jaden all over the place. We used him at running back, we used him at center, defensive tackle, and so. But he came in, being the leader that he is, said that he would be willing to step up and play more of that role. So we got rid of 2 of the guys. I say we got rid of. We just didn't use them at center anymore.
Right.
And you could immediately tell the next game it was our quarterback center exchanges almost rectified itself. And as the game go on, we used JD less and less. Not JD. We used Jaden less and less, and we used JD more. And then by the time early got around, he was able to play the whole game. And so, testament to him and the toughness that JD brings to the table. We talk about that senior leadership. Him coming in, and everybody knew how much pain he was in during that season. Just to get through those ball games, it was very tough for him. But fantastic job. And so, yeah, we struggled through this Mason game with some quarterback center exchanges, but I think they grew from it. They understood kind of the importance of it, but that was probably mostly that was my fault, probably for playing so many centers and try to keep those defensive guys fresh for defense.
Well, Coach, I was a center in high school, so I know how it is sometimes when and especially if you miss those things, everyone's eyes are on you.
Yeah.
But that's what makes you one of the best coaches in the Concho Valley, because you're able to adapt and keep moving rather than sitting there and sticking on who's going to end up playing center. You can figure it out and work it out. Chadwick, you got something?
Oh, yeah. So undefeated in district, another district title. That's something that I think it was important for y'all to do this year, just outright undefeated in district. Moving into the playoffs, y'all played good teams, up through the first 3 rounds. Of course, that cold game in Sweetwater was one of the best I've seen y'all look all year. But going into the Canadian game, what specifically, like if you could take one thing back in that game, what would you do? And then what does Wall need to do to overcome that next hurdle to get to that state game, Coach? Because I watched the state game, and I watched the game Canadian versus Gunter. Like, Canadian should have won that game against Gunter too. So like y'all are right there, So
right, I feel the same way. I felt like our kids coming in, I felt like we had an opportunity. I think we have to have a little bit more consistency offensively. I think we have to, and we've got to hold the ball a lot more. We had 2 drives that were really good in that Canadian ball game. We need 6 or 7 drives. We got to keep them off the field a little bit longer. We've played very good teams in the past that have had passing attacks like those guys have. One of the things we were able to do to those teams were, we kept the ball for so long. When they got it back, they kind of felt like they had to rush themselves and play a little faster than what they were normal. I think you got to put pressure on them offensively to score in a short amount of time. But most of that was because we were able to play ball control offense, keep them off the field. And I think that's one way you have to attack them. You got to play very sound defense, and you got to cover up, receivers in the secondary. Don't let them get loose. You got to have good special teams, and then you got to play, sound ball control offense. You don't want to get in a shootout with those guys because they're explosive and they can score in a hurry.
All right, Coach, you talked about your leadership. You talked about Jaden Sellers being, one of your leaders and J.D. Reed being one of your leaders. But and when I went out there and I spoke to Nathan Pepper, and before I think the season even started, I think that was like week 1 maybe, I said, y'all two are leaders out here. And hey, no, we've got a team of leaders out here. And then you told us about your quarterback. Kind of go into, just who these young guys are who the Concho Valley can look at as maybe guys who are going to step up out there at Wall. Who are those guys that you've seen just tremendous leadership?
I think defensively, our Mike linebacker, which we didn't get to see him play the entire season like we would like to have, is Will Shear. He's a phenomenal linebacker. He started for us last year as a sophomore. Again, you talk about those young kids maturing, and he's one of them. He got a labrum tear, I think, in the Peaster ball game. He set out a couple of district games. He came back for the early ball game to play. He knew he could help us, somewhat. He didn't think he could make it through the season, but he felt like he could attribute it enough in the early ball game to help it, and he did. He did a great job. Got a huge interception for us. Guys like Will, guys like we've got Dylan Gidney that plays defensive end for us, and he was one of the guys that we used in both sides of the ball. And he was, those guys are fantastic. Offensively, we got guys on the offensive line like Lee Brake. He's going to be a big, offensive lineman for us next year. And then you got your quarterback. Gunnar Dillard is, to me, he's kind of the future of our football team as far as offensively goes. I think you're going to see Gunnar just grow in that role of an option quarterback and do a fantastic job. I think he matured so much over this season from the beginning to the end. I think we're going to see great things for him. And he's such a student of the game. He comes in my classroom every day at lunch and he talks football, and we talk about certain situations or certain scenarios. And so I think guys like that are going to be huge for us next year.
Yeah, that was one thing that you said. I think when Chadwick and I went out there, you had a 45-minute conversation with us off camera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we were just talking. You talked about Gunnar. He might have something special coming tomorrow.
I believe he does.
So.
All right, I got the last question for you, Coach, here. This one is kind of a question that gets asked so many times, and I don't think that you have ever had the chance to really answer that question. Here we live in a football world where everybody wants to run the spread and everybody wants to throw the ball and go crazy. The Wall Hawks, they still do it the traditional way, the triple option. Why has the Wall Hawks decided to stick with the triple option and instead of doing the ladder like everyone else and going towards that spread?
I think it gives us an advantage as far as prep goes. Those teams that don't see us very often, we get in the playoffs, and you're going to go up against a Childers team that's very good, that's probably just as talented as we are, maybe a little more talented in the skill positions. And the prep time that they have to get ready for the option and the different variations of options that we run, I think it makes it a lot more difficult to prepare for. People always say they can pack the box on you. Well, sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. If we ever get by them in that first phase, most of the times we're going to score.
Yeah, you're gone. Right.
Exactly. So it's kind of a give and take. We see all kinds of defensive fronts. So our kids, you have to prepare them for what they're going to see each week. That's why you'll see us as early in the season, they'll struggle a little bit, and as the season progresses, the more they learn and the more they catch on to their assignments, they get more explosive offensively. Troy Aikman, he made a point, it wasn't that long ago, but he was talking about why certain defenses look better than certain offenses, and great defenses compared to great offenses. Early in the season, he said that those great defenses, they've got a lot of kids that if you blow an assignment, it's not so noticeable because someone else can make that play. Right. Offensively, if you mess your assignment up, and if you're the slot back blocking on the perimeter, everybody's going to know it because that guy's going to make the tackle more times than not. So it's one of those things where I think it gives us an advantage, and as the season progresses and we get better at it, you see those are the teams that we've had, have made great deep runs.
All right. Well, there you go, folks. If you've ever wondered why the triple option was run here at Wall, there's your answer, because it gives them an advantage. And that's coming from the COVER1 Coach of the Year, head coach Houston Guy. Coach Guy, you got anything you want to say out to the fans before we go?
Nope. I just, this community has been a blessing to me and my family and our coaching staff. We really appreciate, if you ever go to a Wall Hawk football game, they travel as good as anybody around, and we appreciate the support that we get from these guys.
Hey, I'll second that. The very first year that I ever was covering football here, I rode with a Wall Hog fan all the way to Abilene to make y'all's playoff game. So they'll take you anywhere.
Yeah, they will. They will. They're called fanatics for a reason.
Exactly. All right, this has been head coach Houston Guy. He is the Cover 1 Coach of the Year. We'll go back to the studio and finish it up. What a great interview. That's why we chose Coach Guy, because of how awesome he is. Of course, not only behind the camera, but if you guys could have just listened to the conversations we have when we're off the camera, you would know that, man, that is just one great guy. Speaking of great guys, well, what about this one? The Naughty Dave from Double Dave's Pizza. That's their pizza of the month for December. Only a few days left to get it, so go get it today. $12 medium pies, and you get a crispy thin crust, buffalo ranch sauce, mozzarella, pepperoni, sausage, and of course, jalapenos. What else would make it naughty? You can go see Double Dave's. They're in the Southwest Plaza over there off of Knickerbocker and Sunset. Order them online. Give them a phone call. Whichever you'd like to do, just make sure you order your pizza from Double Dave's Pizza. All right, James, we're going to go to you because we need to do the 6-man. We cannot forget about that. You know, we've made this list of all the 2A through 6As, but there is plenty of 1As here in the Concho Valley. So for that, here is James Bellini for our 6-man Cover 1 Team of the Year.
All right, this is a 15-person team because it's a smaller team. But starting off with Trevin Koffel out there in Erie County, had a fantastic season for those guys. Joe Guerrero down in Menard had a good season for those. Will Doyle, Jesus Morales from Eden, J.J. Harrison from Erie County, he had a great season for him. Hunter Hallmark from Very Best, Bo Morrow from Erie County, all those guys had great seasons down there. Fred Mayberry from Erie County, Parker Posey from Erie County, Isaiah Stanislawski from Menard, Ryan Mendoza from Robert Lee, Cadence Lawson from Very Best, Braden Sherwood from Robert Lee, Jet Jackson from Bront, and Jaime Cervantes from Eden made the list. Our 6-man head coach, Don Koffel. That dude, I never thought I could be an Erie County fan so fast. Such
Easy
a short
pick,
amount of time.
easy pick.
Easy pick there. He said, hey man, you want to go eat lunch one day? We'll go do that. When I was sending, hey man, send me a list. He sent me all of his stats, and just a fantastic person. One of the guys that didn't make it, but I want to bring him up as kind of an honorable mention guy, is Schrader Seahorn. When I told Koffel what I wanted from these guys who are honorable mentions, just guys who worked their butts off all year, never gave up, had their head up, first guy in, last guy out. Schrader Seahorn from out there, great kid. Do you just want to go right into honorable mentions real quick?
Yeah, before we do, though,
Okay.
let me get a quick ad in. Before we get to our honorable mentions and to wrap up the end of the show, I want to tell you guys one more time about this deal they got at All-American Chevrolet. Right now, you can get the 2022 Chevy Equinox with $1,500 total cash allowance during their Find Your Tag, Find Your Deal Red Tag event. That's right, you get $500 bonus cash when you get your red tag. Go see them today, 203 North Bryan, or give them a call, 325-203-5425. Or maybe you don't like the Chevy Equinox. Maybe you want to see what they got in trucks. They got plenty of them. View their inventory at Chevrolet.com. Remember, that's All American Chevrolet, the fun place to buy a car. All right, James, now let's talk about a little bit of honorable mentions. I will go to you first. Who are you mentioning?
Okay, first we're going to talk about the San Angelo schools. We'll talk about Devastian Manley from Lakeview. Receiver, punter. If you watch the Brownwood game, he there at the last moment in the corner of the end zone, bringing down a pass. You know, one of the guys who just played hard for him all season long, and you know, just one of those great kids out there. And from TLCA, we're going to talk about Lane Honey, their quarterback. He had a school record for touchdowns. Matt, you talked about their receiver, Jalen Johnson. He had a school record too. But Honey kind of owes Coach Guy, because when Coach Guy says this kid is an absolute playmaker, you listen. You know, he's seen a lot of it. So congratulations, Will Honey. Congratulations, Sebastian Manley. You two guys are honorable mentions for your schools. Yeah, there's nothing else to really say about it, man. Y'all are just great players.
And Chadwick, who's you're going to be your honorable mention this year?
Of course, I'm going to go with San Angelo Central Bobcat, just because I was at every single one of y'all's games. I was at y'all's practices. I saw your spring game, you know. I'm going to go with all-around utility player, started on both sides of the ball, was a kick returner on special teams, a punt returner, as well as on punt and kickoff, and that is Kevon Rice. He's one of the most talented and athletic players on the field at all times, and it takes a special kind of guy to be able to learn an entire offensive scheme and learn an entire defensive scheme at the 6A level, and to like have enough stamina to be able to compete against his teams as talented as you do. He had several touchdowns on the year playing receiver, and he was always in the secondary playing either safety or nickelback during or on defense. So congratulations, Kevon. You're a man after my own heart. I was also one of the guys who played both ways when I was in high school. So yeah, congratulations. My honorable mention, Kevon Rice.
Yeah, I think that's very important to note that, because at 6A, you don't play both ways. There's only a handful of people on each team, like maybe one or two on each team that are 6A that play both ways. And when you get to those really big schools, nobody plays both ways. So good for him. I'm going to talk about, the quarterbacks. It's hard to make our quarterback list, right? There's only 3 or 4 quarterbacks on the list if you're counting the 6-men, right? So it's hard to make the list because you gotta throw the ball a lot. You got to be in that perfect offense. You got to, have 20 touchdowns or whatever it is to make it. But there was a quarterback who actually was very good that maybe the numbers didn't show exactly what it was, and that's Gunnar Dillard from Wall. They got to run the triple option over there, so you're not going to see, he threw, 30 touchdowns. You're never going to see that because they just don't throw the ball. But what he does is so valuable. Coach Guy talks about it. He goes in every day. He works really, really hard and make sure he's really focused on football, loves to talk football, loves the game of football. And, Coach Guy talked about it yesterday, or in the interview a while ago that you guys saw. The triple option, it lets them take advantage of some things that other teams don't have. And with a quarterback like Gunnar Dillard in there, that offense started to roll as that season moved on. He's only a sophomore, so he's got 2 more years on that Wall Hog team that was really young this year. So be on the lookout for him, guys. My honorable mention, Gunnar Dillard. So, moving on to the end, just like every Cover 1 in the world we've ever done, we're going to do a final thought. And I'm going to start with you, Ryan. So, what is put it all, one big thing. It doesn't have to be about the football season in general, but, the year's over. We have our teams. Tell me what you think.
First off, I want to give a shout out to both of you guys, my co-hosts here.
Ow!
Yeah, this is going to be part of my final thought.
Chadwick.
This truly is a grind. It's a fun grind, but like at the end of the day, like this is a lot of work. These guys work tirelessly to put these kind of lists together, and all we've ever tried to do is make the guys in the Concho Valley look good. So thanks for everything that you do, Matt, and thanks for everything you've done for this award show.
Well, thank
James.
you, Chadwick.
Yeah, you make my job easy when I'm out there covering games. I just know if I just send in highlights that they'll get put up. So, but other than that, Central Bobcats. Let's get back to work, gentlemen. We're going to have to reload at quarterback next year, but I do know that there is another Hill brother in the works, plus Christian English. He's playing basketball right now. Guys call him Squeaky. He might be up for quarterback next year as well. So that's it for me. 2022.
Are you saying we're going to have another Hill English touchdowns?
Yeah, but I don't know how it's going to be yet. I don't know who's going to be the receiver, who's going to be the quarterback, because both these guys play quarterback. But yeah, that's 22. That's 2022 for me. I'm done.
All right. My final thoughts, I'll leave James for last because I know he's got something he wants to say specifically. But for my final thoughts, I want to thank all of our fans out there and our advertisers, because without you guys, this wouldn't be possible. I could sit here and talk about football all day long, but to be able to sit down, do it on camera, have all these stringers go to games and stuff like that was only possible because you guys watch the show, you comment on the show, you look forward to the show, and if we're late, I know Chadwick's got buddies who are calling him like, yo, are y'all going on tonight? Because people want this. And so, to All American Chevrolet, to Angelo Bold, to Team and Investments, to Double Dave's Pizza, to Edward Jones at Davis Woodfin at Edward Jones. I want to thank you guys because, like I said, without y'all, this would not be possible. James, your final thought.
Yeah, no, thanks to you two guys. I mean, this show wouldn't
We're
be
getting all sappy.
Yeah, this wouldn't. Oh, it's
the
our
last show, man. Last show of the season.
Yeah, another thing I want to talk about is this right here. I've had this business card up here. When I was thinking about, hey, what are we going to do for these kids? This is kind of a last-minute deal. We thought of this a couple weeks ago doing this show. And, hey, let's do an all-cover one award show. And I say, all right, well, we gotta have awards, right? So I went out and I had these dog tags made up for all the kids. I don't know if you can, probably can't read it from there, but there's my desk is covered with these. And this man, Mr. Ben Parsons, out at Man Cave, I'll flip it over. I don't know if you can read it or not.
Go ahead and give him a quick number. Read that number.
All right, the number is 325-716-8795. This guy laser engraved all these dog tags for us for the kids. We're gonna get them out to the school, respective schools where all these kids are at. Without the kids, this wouldn't have been possible, man. Without y'all out there playing, giving it your all, y'all, we wouldn't have jobs, man. This show wouldn't be a thing without you guys. And congratulate, so thank this man here, Ben Parsons. He's the owner at Man Cave. He's a veteran, veteran owned and operated. And another thing I want to talk about is Water Valley's head coach, Charles Bowles. He's fighting non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. At the beginning of the year, I was calling out there. I was like, man, why isn't this guy calling me back? Did I call him too much? Is it my fault? No, it's definitely his fault. And I found out that he had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. He's MD Anderson fighting cancer. So I was like, man, I'm really an asshole for acting the way I was acting. But just, we're gonna attach his GoFundMe to this, to the show, to the article we're gonna put up. Go donate to him. This man right here, Ben Parsons, he actually gave $100. And he doesn't even know. He just met me. He's like, man, that's a great thing. I don't know anybody's life who hasn't been affected by cancer. Mine certainly has. I don't think anybody else. I don't know anybody who hasn't. So, yeah, go on there. Donate to Coach Bowles. We're gonna throw up Daniel Martinez as well from the north side. The YMCA coach who just passed away. Our thoughts are with y'all guys, and keep fighting. And that's what we're talking about. Also, hey, I didn't have all these stats for all these kids in the Concho Valley. I really, I messaged all these coaches last week and sent them emails after emails, and I didn't get a lot of back. So parents, take it upon yourselves. Put stats in. Max Preps is your friend. That will get every kid recognition as much as they can. So go ahead and do that next season for us, and we can have every school represented on this list.
Absolutely. And guys, this has been the Cover1 Award Show. We have Cover1 every Friday. Every year we kind of changed it up. Last year we did like a 4-hour-long live stream show. This year we kind of changed it up and did a pregame, halftime, and postgame show. Who knows? Next year we may even change it up more than that. But it's been fun. It's been a long season, but it has been a great, great ride. Shout out to all the champions out there that won playoff games, and of course the ones who went really far, like the Sonora Broncos and the Wall Hawks. Guys, anything else you guys want to say?
No, that's it for me.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
Just like that, Cover1 show is over. We'll see y'all next year.